ESPN just released their big board rankings for the top 100 prospects in the 2026 NBA draft class, and in today's video, I wanted to react to their rankings and see how it compares to the big board that I recently released. But before we begin, if you enjoy the content, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. But now, let's jump into it. So this article has come after the NBA trade deadline, and one cool thing about it is that ESPN and specifically Jeremy Woo, who wrote this article, actually goes in and looks at based on his player evaluation, but also the intel that he's getting around NBA and college ranks, which my big board doesn't include this at all. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how mine stacks up to his in the top 100 prospect rankings that he has. So starting us off at the number 1 spot, we have Darryn Peterson from Kansas, which is exactly where I have Darryn Peterson as well. He's a 6'6" elite 3-level scorer. Honestly, it's just looked like one of the best players in all of college basketball when he's actually been able to play, because we do know that injuries have limited his games, but I don't have too many concerns with this. Obviously, I'm matching Darryn Peterson right where they have him as well. Their number 2 prospect is Dybantsa, who I also have at number 2, but I think one thing that I have that's pretty similar to them is that Dybantsa and Peterson are really 1A and 1B to me right now. I think they're really close when it comes to where they rank on the big board for me and for most NBA teams, I would say, because Dybantsa just has that huge 6'9" jumbo wing style of play that I think a lot of teams in the NBA are looking for, and has been one of the prime positions for some of the best players in the league right now. So I really love what Dybantsa brings to the table, and with his play at BYU and with Darryn Peterson playing sometimes and not playing sometimes, in my big board specifically, I could have Dybantsa jump him here soon, but as of right now, I still have him listed as my number 2. Then we both have Cameron Boozer at 3. I think this is pretty much how most people have him, 1, 2, 3, with Darryn Peterson, Dybantsa, and Cameron Boozer. But for any NBA team, I really don't think you can go wrong with any of these guys. Number 4, Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson for North Carolina, especially starting the year, really played himself into that next tier for me when it comes to the freshman and the 2026 NBA draft prospects. Just with what he's done, he's played extremely well, basically a 20 points per game, 10 rebound per game type of player, and has an elite motor and one of the best defensive players in this entire draft class. So I have him at my number 4 as well. So far, we're really aligned with where we have everyone. Kingston Fleming's at 5, Keaton Wagler at 6. I actually have them as my 5 and 6 as well. So pretty cool to see that what I've been seeing and watching in the college ranks is translating and feels like what a lot of teams around the league are seeing, with Kingston Fleming's playing himself as point guard 1, if you consider Darryn Peterson more of a combo guard, because he's been absolutely on a tear this year, nearly a 17 point per game score for the Houston Cougars, and someone that I didn't really see breaking out earlier in the year. Wasn't expecting it, but he has just played himself not only high on my draft board, but it looks like on everyone's. And then Keaton Wagler, he's been a later breakout for Illinois, but he's shown some flashes of being more of a point guard earlier in the season when he was playing. You had Kylan Boswell playing the point guard, so we saw him more as a 2 guard. But once he got into that point guard role, it seemed like he was one of the best scoring guards in the entire country, specifically that 46-point outburst that he had at Purdue, which was incredible to see. So 1 through 6, I'm aligned with ESPN so far. And then it comes to number 7. This is where I'm going to have a bit of a differentiation for me compared to ESPN. They have Nate Ament at number 7, and I actually have Nate Ament later in my lottery. I believe I have him at my number 14 spot. He was supposed to be basically that next tier, number 4, behind Dybantsa, Darryn Peterson, and Cameron Boozer coming into the year. And from what he showed specifically early in the season, he just did not seem ready. Really skinny when it comes to the size, especially for someone that's 6'10". Also, pretty inefficient when it came to the offensive end, but I will say Nate Ament has been playing a lot better as of late. And so if you want to have him as high as 7, I don't disagree with it necessarily, although I don't have him that high, but he is playing his way higher and higher on my big board. I do think he has one of the higher ceilings in all of the draft prospects for this 2026 draft class. So I don't hate it, but I definitely am a bit lower on him. Then Darius Acuff at number 8. I have him as my number 9 prospect, and it's pretty interesting because right behind him on ESPN, we have Mikel Brown Jr. at number 9, and I have Mikel Brown Jr. in front of Darius Acuff. I also have Darryn Peterson from Alabama in front of him. So it'll be interesting to see because I have 3 point guards right there with Mikel Brown Jr., Darryn Peterson, and Darius Acuff. But I definitely agree with ESPN on this one because I think both Acuff and Mikel Brown Jr. deserve to be in the top 10 of the big board rankings right now with what they have done so far. Darius Acuff has been one of the most consistent freshmen in all of college basketball. As you can see down here, averaging 21 points and 6 assists. I believe he leads the SEC in assists per game right now. And although he is a bit of a smaller, ball-dominant lead guard that can't really switch on the defensive end, with what he's put up and what he's shown in the college game so far, I don't think you can disregard it. And I would be very surprised if he slipped out of the lottery, but it is an archetype that isn't necessarily as big as it once was in the NBA. So I definitely have Mikel Brown Jr. above him. Reason being, I love the size of Mikel Brown Jr. compared to Darius Acuff. I think he has shown a bit more of the shooting ability, although Darius Acuff has shot it extremely well this year. I think he just has a little more pop to his game. So I do like Mikel Brown Jr. a little more than Darius Acuff, but not much. Then they have Kareem Lopez at number 10. I haven't looked into Kareem Lopez much because I do look more at college basketball, but I've been seeing him anywhere from this later lottery range to the early 20s. So I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I get it from what I've seen so far. It looks like he's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. So not necessarily a bad stat line for overseas, but I don't have him on my big board just because I focus more on college basketball players. We have Thomas Hauck at 11, Yaxel Lindenborg at 12. I actually have Yaxel Lindenborg above Thomas Hauck, but I don't hate either of these. Both of these guys are in my top 15 of prospects. Really love what they bring to the table. Thomas Hauck has one of the highest motors in all of college basketball, and I think that's going to help him a lot, specifically with him being a little older. I believe he's a junior at Florida this year, and he's also started to show that there's some consistency from the three-point line, so you can get a 6'9" forward coming in. I think he'll be a guy that a lot of teams that are looking to contend right now are going to target, so teams that I believe are going to be around this range, maybe not necessarily at 11, but near the back half or right outside of the lottery is like a Golden State. I could see them looking at a Thomas Hauck, but teams like that are not really looking to rebuild, they're looking to contend right now. I could see Thomas Hauck being their guy. Then Yaxel Lindenborg, honestly, could have went to the draft last year. He was mocked around mid to late 20s, but playing himself even higher up in the rankings, which is where I have him. I have him at 13th in my big board, so pretty close with what ESPN has here. Hans Steinbach from Washington. One thing I will say about this draft class, it seems really thin when it comes to the bigs, specifically centers. So Hans Steinbach out of Washington has been one of the best freshman bigs in the entire country. 6'11", can honestly step out and shoot it a bit, and probably the best rebounder in the entire draft class. Right now, averaging over 11 rebounds per game to go along with 17.5 points. He's also been known for his passing, but really hasn't shown it the most at Washington as of yet. But if you watch some of his tape, he actually has really good vision, so I could see this being another thing that scouts like. But I have him at 16th. He's 13 on their big board, so not too far off. Then we have Braylon Mullins coming up at the number 14 spot. I'm a bit higher on Braylon Mullins at 12. I think he's one of the best shooters in the entire class. Really fast release that I love. But he did have an ankle injury earlier on in the college basketball season where we didn't see him for about the first month. So he hasn't been able to show as much as a lot of these other guys in the lottery, specifically these freshmen. So I do think some of the pre-draft workouts are going to be able to help him even more climb. But I definitely think he's a lottery talent. Then you have Chris Sinak Jr. Looks like he's dropped a bit in their big board. He also dropped in mine. He's number 19. But I do like a lot about Chris Sinak Jr. and he does give me a lot of intrigue, specifically with his ability to step out and make jumpers, shooting around 37% right now. That's good, but he's a mobile 6'11" big man who could probably play the 4 or the 5 at the next level as long as he continues to grow into his body. But there's definitely some questions about his consistency. I see that it's mentioned here. So I do have some questions about Chris Sinak, but number 15 doesn't really seem too far off. I definitely like this spot for him. You got Koa Peat at 16. I'm a little higher on Koa Peat, but he has dropped a bit in my rankings as well. For my first one that I put out, I could see that they previously had him ranked at number 8. Now he's dropping back to number 16. biggest question for him is going to be a consistent three-point shot. They mentioned it here. He's not that versatile without it. Really, only 6'8", too, and he's going to be trying to play that 4 spot, so he's going to be slightly undersized, but I will say that there's definitely going to be appeal for some teams just due to the role player that he can be at the next level, and obviously his winning history, not only in high school, but this year with Arizona. And right behind him, he's got his Arizona teammate in Braden Burries, who has been a breakout this year, especially in the latter part of the season, and he's jumped up in my big board. My first big board of the year going into the season, I had him in the late 20s, and now he's up to 18 of mine. You can see they had him at 41, moving up to 17th. He's definitely played his way into the one and done mix and a surefire first round pick to me. He's just shown the ability to be not only a primary playmaker at times for Arizona, but he can play off the ball as well, has solid catch and shoot, and he's definitely has decent size at 6'4". Wish he was a little bigger. I think he'd go higher if that, but definitely a great player. Then you got Jaden Quaintance at number 18. I haven't dropped Quaintance as much. I still have him in my top 10 at number 10, but he is one of the biggest question marks in this draft class. If he was healthy, I think he's a surefire lottery pick, which is why I still have him in my lottery. But the resume that he has when he's played has been extremely well. But he had that ACL injury last year and had a surgery in it in March of 2025. And he's only been able to play roughly 4 games this season with the Kentucky Wildcats. But last year at Arizona State was one of the best freshmen when he played, specifically on the defensive end. And right now, he does have a limited body of work because we're looking at last season's stats where he was averaging 9.5 points and 8 rebounds. As a very young freshman last year, really impressive in Big 12. He wasn't old enough to go to the draft last year. He was still 17 whenever you had to be 18 in order to get drafted. So the reason why he's come back for his sophomore year, he transferred to Kentucky, but really has struggled to get on the court. Hopefully we get to see him soon, but I definitely think there's some long-term upside with him, specifically on the defensive end, because I think he's one of the most athletic bigs in the entire class as long as he gets healthy. Then you got Christian Anderson from Texas Tech. He's definitely played himself into the first round for me as well, where I have him right around this range at number 17. Sophomore guard, one of the best three-point shooters, specifically off the dribble, which is really impressive. He's shooting around 43.5% from 3, averaging nearly 20 points at 19.3 points and 7.7 assists per game. I think he'll have a stay or go decision with where he's at right now because Texas Tech could throw some money at him, but I definitely think he has the ability to play at the next level. Then, again, a weak center class, so we have Patrick Ngungba from Duke at the number 20 spot. I have him right around here, my number 22. It seems like he's sliding a bit. He was previously at 16. He just doesn't have the opportunity to show a lot with Duke when you have guys like Cameron Boozer, another guy that we're going to see in Isaiah Evans. He just hasn't been able to show a lot. Also, his biggest struggle is staying on the floor. He really gets into foul trouble a lot for the Duke Blue Devils. So I think that does hurt a bit with the ability to see him. And he's not necessarily the best three-point shooter, but he's a really smart player, efficient on the interior when it comes to finishing. So we'll just have to see if that's able to translate. Then he has LeBaron Philon all the way at 21. This is one I strongly disagree with. I think Philon is going to be an All-American this year in college basketball. I know that doesn't always translate over to the NBA, but with what he's shown the ability to explode, have a really quick first step, get to the rim at will. His three-point shot is also growing, averaging 21.5 points and 5 assists. I just think that he has improved and took that jump that we expected him and scouts wanted him to have from freshman to sophomore year, because we did think he was going to the draft last year, but seems like he got some feedback that there were things that he needed to work on. And honestly, to me, it seems like he's worked on all of those. I truly think he's a top 10 talent and in the top tier of point guards that we have in this draft class. So 21 is really low for me because I have him in my top 10. Then you got Bennett Sturts. I have him around 20. He's another one of these guys that I think if he was a freshman or a sophomore doing what he's doing, he would be in the lottery as well. But his age is probably going to turn some people away. But if you have teams that need immediate backcourt help that are looking to contend right now, I think he's definitely going to go to one of those teams in the first round. Then we got back-to-back Baylor players after this, Cameron Carr and Tunde Yesufu. I have both of these guys here in the 20s as well for me, early 20s. Carr has been one that's definitely jumped up and has been a breakout a bit for the Baylor Bears in his sophomore year. Previously, last year was at Tennessee, just didn't get the run that he needed in order to showcase what he's got, and then now he's got at Baylor, and he definitely has the NBA framework of a two guard and one of the most explosive jumpers I've seen in all of college basketball. Throws down some huge dunks, also has the ability to shoot from three-point range, and not only at the line but further back, so he's been really impressive to me. And then Tunde Yesufu, he's definitely sliding down, it seems like, this board, but also my board as well. I just thought I would see more from three when it comes to Tunde Yesufu, and it looks like he has found his stroke lately, hit 11 threes over the last 3 games for the Baylor Bears, but 6'5", has a really good frame. Just the shot selection, he just seems still a little bit inexperienced, so he's still developing. I think he could turn into a really good player, but I actually have him right here at 24 as well on my big board. Then we got Isaiah Evans from Duke. This is just a guy that's always going to be near the back half of the first round with that shooting ability that he has. He's able to catch and shoot, but also come off the dribble and shoot. Really good movement shooter, which is something that a lot of NBA teams seem to value right now. So I got Isaiah Evans later at number 29 in my big board, but right around here as well. And then for 26 through 100 of ESPN's big board, they don't have necessarily write-ups of them, but they do have them listed out here. Amari Allen, I have him. Tyler Tanner, Dalen Swain. These are all guys I have in my first round mock as well. Joshua Jefferson, Ade Mara. Both of these guys are in my top 30 prospects in college basketball right now. But then you have a guy like Mo Krivas. I don't have him necessarily this high, but what he showed in that game against Kansas and what he showed recently since I've dropped my big board has been really impressive. I do like him, a 7-footer that is probably one of the better centers in this class, in a really light center class. I could see him going in the first round. Then you got Alex Karaban from UConn. I think Karaban coming out earlier in his career would have been better, especially after that first national championship. He was mocked, I think, around this. So if he goes around 30, maybe not the worst decision actually to stay, but I think there's just some limits to what Karaban can do. Not overly athletic, can shoot the ball extremely well though. So a little pick your poison there. Ade Mara, I really like him. He's another 7-footer that I think is going to have the ability to grow a lot. You got Henry Vasar from North Carolina. I had him as my honorable mention, so just outside of my top 30. Braden Smith at 34. He is an undersized point guard, but he will get the ball where it needs to go. I love seeing Braden Smith mock this high. I don't have him this high because I'm not as confident as it, but I do like seeing that. Then we got guys like Malik Thomas, who I would say was definitely higher earlier in the year. He was really big for Arkansas to start the year, but I think he's taken a bit more of a backseat to Darius Acuff. I feel like earlier in the year they were a bit 1A, 1B. Now, Malik Thomas is definitely a step behind Darius Acuff as a freshman there for John Calipari at Arkansas. Zuby Ejiofor, Flory Badunga, Alex Condon. I like all those. The one big issue I have with this, though, is how is a guy like Morez Johnson Jr., who I actually have up at number 28 in my big board, I don't know how he's as low as 41 for ESPN, but another question I have is, as an NBA prospect, I don't know how any of these guys are higher than him. Maybe Flory Badunga, I have him as an honorable mention as well for me, but Alex Condon and Zuby Ejiofor, I just feel like Morez Johnson Jr. does everything that they do and a little bit better. Also, just a bit more athletic, better size to me. I just feel like at the next level, he's going to be able to do a lot of those things, and he's younger. So NBA teams do like to look at the age and give him a lot more time to develop than guys like Alex Condon and Zuby Ejiofor. Although I do think both of those guys are second-round talents, I think Morez Johnson Jr. is a guy that could go in the top 30. So I would disagree and have him a bit higher, but that's really been my only huge question mark so far. Juke Harris has been a breakout there at Wake Forest. Neoclis Avdalis from Virginia Tech. He had a really good game earlier on for Virginia Tech and really got everyone excited, including myself. I think in my first big board, I had him in the 20s, but really has taken a backseat for that team then. So I've kind of dropped him out of my top 30 rankings as well. Elijah Arenas, I had him as an honorable mention in my big board. I think he's really intriguing. Had that injury that basically kept him out for the first half of the season, but now he's back, putting up nearly 20 points per game for a USC team, but hasn't necessarily been the most efficient. So we'll have to see how that trends going into the end of the season. Then you have Abuka Okori, who I believe is third in all of freshmen in points per game right now in college basketball, has been a breakout there at Stanford. I don't see him going to the NBA draft this season, but definitely a name to monitor. Milan Momcilovic, I would have him a bit higher as well at 46. Probably the best pure shooter in the entire draft class out of Iowa State. Also has really good size, but the athleticism is going to hurt him a little bit. Dame Sarr is a name that's definitely dropped. I had him in my first round big board, but he's dropped for me. But as of late for Duke, he's flashed that shooting, which is one thing that I think a lot of scouts were looking for that he wasn't showing earlier on in the season. So could see him climbing higher. This is another one that I have a big question with. JT Toppin at number 54. Probably top 3, top 4 players in all of college basketball right now out of Texas Tech. I have him as one of my honorable mentions. Believe he would be a 32 in my board if it went down that far. And we have him as 54. He is just one of the best post scorers in the entire country. And I know the NBA doesn't necessarily value that style of play, but he's shown the ability to step out and shoot it from 3 at times. And as long as that continues to develop, I just don't see how you have a guy like this down at number 54. Believe he should be higher than that. So Toppin at 54 is a bit crazy to me. Solo Ball was another name earlier in the year. JoJo Tugler that a lot of people had, including myself, higher. Early second round that seemed to be dropping. You got Taurus Reed out of UConn at 63. Milos Uzan, a guy that probably would have gone early second round last year, but wanted to get that guarantee and get into the first round, so he came back for Houston. But with the emergence of Kingston Flemings, he hasn't been able to do what we thought he was going to be able to do. So seeing him down at 66. Then you got 2 smaller guards and Jeremy Fears Jr. and Tahad Pettiford at 68 and 69. One thing I will say is Tahad Pettiford, I firmly believe he was going in the back half of the first round last year after his freshman season at Auburn, and then this year has just been really inconsistent for the Tigers, and it looks like he's playing himself out of the NBA draft and could be potentially coming back. Maybe not to Auburn, but could be a guy that I'm looking at entering the transfer portal next season with just not having the best sophomore year, a little bit of a sophomore slump. So interesting to see him, and honestly really sad to see him all the way down here after what we thought he was going to be and how he played, not only as a freshman, but also at the draft combine over the summer. Ruben Chenyulu, if you're looking for a guy that's just going to work, get boards, and honestly has shown a little bit more of a growing post game, I really like Ruben Chenyulu. I could see someone taking a swing on him in the late second round. Dylan Mitchell's another guy that's intriguing for me out of St. John's. Really athletic forward for the Johnnies. The one big swing skill for him is going to be the shooting, which is something he hasn't shown yet, but could be something that we see. Emmanuel Sharp, he has to be higher than 83. One of the best pure shooters in all of college basketball, has shown the ability to shoot it from NBA range and deeper for the Houston Cougars. But he is a guy that definitely could return to college basketball. So I see him at 83, but I think he could be higher. Trey Kaufman-Wren out at 86, which is crazy with what he previously has done. All-American for the Purdue Boilermakers last year. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be this year. Tamin Lipsey at 92 is also crazy for me. I think Tamin Lipsey is probably one of the top 10 point guards in all of college basketball and can really bring something at the next level. I truly believe that, just with his defensive effort, ability to guard multiple positions, even with the smaller size. So that's a bit of a surprise to me. And then another one I want to call out, Felix Okpara. I think that's another one of those athletic big men that could be a rim runner for a lot of teams. I think he's someone that probably should be higher on this big board than number 99, but really interesting to see what ESPN has. It's pretty cool to see the relationship and the differences between my big board and what they have currently in their top 100 prospect rankings. But that wraps it up for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on ESPN's top 100 rankings. Also, if you haven't already, check out my big board. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching and all the support, and I'll see you in the next one.